Hello, everyone. Here comes a quick, review or a little discussion around the case study. Remember that this first case study is not due until the end of our next module. So you have a little bit of extra time for that. So please stay tuned. You got 2 weeks to do that. Um, all right, so there we go. Now, remember, next week we do have we're going to be covering two modules in 1 week. So this will be due at the end of next week. I think I say module 6. Again, module 6 is going to be completed next week. You do want to do some work on this case study, hopefully this week, that you've laid a little bit of groundwork in that. So your next week isn't going to be too overwhelming. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this and hopefully give you a little bit of direction on how to tackle this thing. Let's remove my picture and let's look at the case study questions in here. So you really have 5 questions that you have to answer. Remember, I am looking for, are you being reasonable? Are you applying critical thinking? Are you bringing some of the terms and the concepts that we've learned so far into the course back into the narrative of your writing? Do that and you're going to be just fine, even though you may not have exact mathematical answers. All right, so in this case study, we're going to be looking at River Community Hospital. This first question is examine the hospital statement of cash flows. So what I would want to know, or just some suggestions is, do you kind of know what the elements are within a statement of cash flows? Look at some of those elements and you're going to be applying that to this question. What information do they provide regarding a hospital's sources and uses of cash over the past 2 years? That's kind of what does a statement of cash flow do in general with sources and uses of cash, and can you extract that information out of what's being given in this case study? Some things to look at would be, what's going on with property, plant, and equipment. Maybe there's something going on there. How do cash flows compare from year to year? Where is it going? Can you figure out where the cash is going or where is it coming from? Is there a net increase or decrease in cash flows? So kind of looking for those concepts. If there's some information given in the case study that you just don't know how to apply, that's okay. Don't freak out about it. There is some information in the case study that's probably beyond the scope of um, of what we've learned so far. So don't worry. But there's definitely some stuff already in there that you can apply. Again, there's some hints as far as what to look at as maybe looking at the property, plant, and equipment expenses. Have the beds for the period, have they increased or decreased? Did they keep the number of beds the same? As far as how would that affect things with the cash flow statement? So just some general ideas there. List 5 or more financial strengths for the hospital. So what would their liquidity, how does their liquidity look like? Are they, liquid? Are they able to meet, do they have cash? Are they able to meet their obligations quickly with liquid cash or near um, cash that be items that securities, especially that can be converted very quickly into cash? What's their liquidity look like? How is their debt? Are they highly leveraged? Are they not highly leveraged? Um, how does their we call it property, plant, and equipment. Is it new? Is it aged? Is the facility going to need replacing? That kind of stuff. Those are things that you can talk about. There's a lot of things that you can bring up. Pick the 5 that you think are good points with this particular hospital. Then and you could easily list maybe more than 5, but pick 5. The next one, what are some of the weaknesses, and give you some areas there. Um, Again, how are their deductibles? How are those looking? Is there a trend in their liquidity? Is liquidity going up or down? They may have great liquidity right now, but is it kind of getting softer? I don't know. You're going to have to, again, just some general questions in there. Um, Are they utilizing their physical assets to the best of their capacity? Um, Another one you may want to look at is their days in collection. How is that looking? Are their collection procedures looking great, or maybe they need a little bit of improvement? Remember, collections usually bad when we hear it for us. You don't want a collection agent calling you, but if you're the if it's your business, you want to collect your money and you want to collect it quickly. I will say in healthcare there is somewhat of a fine line between being too aggressive and collecting your bill when it's due. But ultimately, hospitals do need to be paid for their services if the patient or the client patient has the ability to pay. So take a look at some of that. Some other ideas looking at my notes here, I just kind of sketched down myself. How is the inpatient profitability looking? Are they increasing that profitability for those inpatients, or is it being eroded by certain factors? What How's patient volume in general? Is patient volume going up, going down? How are expenses going up, going down? Are they getting control of their expenses? Um, how are how are liabilities being are trending? Are their liabilities starting to increase to an unsatisfactory level? Again, just some things to think about. And you might find more than just some of those ideas. Those are just some things, some random thoughts as I kind of penciled out through the case and wrote some notes down here for myself of some things that I was thinking and looking at, things that I'd want to examine, concepts that I would want to bring up in any areas, whether they're positives or negatives. So you have that. Then based on the limited amount of information, what are your top three or four recommendations to improve the financial position of the hospital? I'll leave that one pretty much up to you. You're going to identify some weaknesses. I mean, there's going to be strengths, but you identify some weaknesses. And then, again, what are your top three or four recommendations to do that? And with that, even though you could list, your three top, what are some suggestions on how you would implement that kind of real world? Let's say, for example, they would need to increase um, inpatient volume. What would be two or three strategies for you to increase your inpatient volume? Again, I'm just making some stuff up here. Maybe you go out and seek additional referral sources to bring you more business. I don't know, but come up with some suggestions from those to implement um, those three or four recommendations, and then discuss two or more key learning points from the case. What were kind of some of the things that you felt opened it up to you, and like, oh yeah, this really showed me how XYZ really affects the bottom line or could affect, operations within our River Community Hospital here or any, given hospital. So come up with those. Those are going to be kind of personal to you, but the case is generated around some general concepts. So you're going to be answering those five questions. You're going to be answering these five questions in complete paragraphs. As I list here, you're going to want to do one or more full paragraphs. So let me show you what that looks like a little bit. I'm going to show you a submission that was here, and I'll kind of scan through this really quick. But notice how the student is listing full paragraphs for each one of these answers in here. Nice, well-rounded answers with some data in there, with information. I think you're going to be looking at around three. If you're doing this right, you're going to be looking at around 3 to 4 full pages in here. So do make sure that you are answering these things fully. Where students have received points off is, they give me a 2 to 3 sentence answer, and that's not going to cut it. Let me go back to real quickly here. So that one question, like question 4, based on the limited amount of information provided in the case, what are your top 3 or 4 recommendations? I mean, you could actually give 3 recommendations in one sentence. You know, decrease costs, increase patience, um, lower uh, fixed costs, something like that. You could do that, but obviously you're not. That's not a two paragraphs, 1 to 2 paragraphs of content. So you want to expand on that, and that how do you expand? The best way to do that is I recommend this. Here is suggestions for implementation. Point one, I recommend point two. Here is how I suggest we implement it, and so on and so forth. So that should give you enough volume to speak intelligibly on that particular question. So don't fill your answers with just a bunch of gobbledygook. Make sure you are filling them with, I mean, if your boss was asking you for this information on this particular kind of scenario, how would you really fill this with content and make yourself shine and make yourself sound intelligent about the whole thing. So all right, so hopefully that helps and give you some expectations, giving you some random thoughts on how to go at this. I know there's a lot of information in this case. Have fun with it, and feel free to be creative with it. I've had students who have done graphs and charts and all of that. You're more than welcome to do that. You could also do it like I gave you that little sample before in a narrative format with just some, with paragraphs. At least again, you always want to have that 1 to 2 full paragraphs. If you want to go and put charts in there, that's up to you. I've had students do ratio analysis on this particular case study, which we really have not gone over in a lot of detail. So I really, wouldn't worry about any kind of ratio analysis. We're going to hit that more in finance. But hey, if you want to take it in a different direction and you have a set of knowledge with this, with beyond the scope of this case that you can bring in, go ahead and do that. Again, I'm just looking for answers that make sense, that show that you've read the case, that show that you're bringing back the concepts that we have learned so far in this course in the narrative. You do that, you're going to do really well on this case study. So there you go. But do plan that this thing, when it's done, it's going to be about 3 full pages of material. If you're handing in just a single page, yeah, you probably want to go back and make sure you got 3 nice, kind of robust pages answering, the total of these 5 questions with good content. All right, so there you go. Hopefully that helps with the case study. Again, try to have fun with this. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great week.